Welcome to The Difference Engine, the show for tech founders, investors, and innovators.
What is coming up today?
We'll be asking how Builder.ai built itself up before toppling itself over.
Intel is going under the knife. Can it pull through?
But first, we're digging through the fallout from the £300 million cyber hack on M&S. It's all looking a bit pants. Much has been written and more is to be learnt from the cyber takedown, which started in Marks and Spencer's. That's a very large British retailer, for those not based in the UK, before others were also attacked, including Co-op, again, a very big food-focused retail chain, Deal, we all know it because it makes us all sound sophisticated if we say Deal, and now Adidas. The progeny of Adolf Dassler, the great shoe entrepreneur. Anyway, it was a £300 million wake-up call for the board and shareholders of M&S, and others may be cheap at the price if, as a digital society, we can learn the lessons and become unfragile. So what is the opportunity for new categories to emerge in this space?
Right, so let's see, like whether you are queuing in Marks and Spencer, or watching its share price anxiously dive, or you're a cybersecurity vendor sitting smugly on the sidelines and waiting for the next quarter's quota with a long list of concerned prospects that you're going to speak to as a result of Marks and Spencer going down. This is the cyber story of the year so far, and not just in the UK. So beyond the who, what, wheres, which have been surprisingly forthcoming in this case, as opposed to others, the whys and the how of what happened and how to avoid it in the future are really the point here.
So what we said at the beginning, what do such destructive disruptions mean for categorication? Where is the line between ambulance chasing and preventing more accidents, in inverted commas, by laying out what is at stake? I mean, frankly, is there room in tech's largest Uber category, cybersecurity, for yet more players?
It's a good question. Firstly, if I have to listen to yet another, this was not any hack, it was a Marks and Spencer hack, I will puke up my Percy Pigs. So this super cliche take, not a hack, a Marks and Spencer hack, which is a riff on Marks and Spencer's most popular ad, appeared in almost every write-up of this debacle. And what's nice about this story from a journalistic point of view is this combines the UK's number one purveyor of underwear with the seemingly new discovery of cybersecurity by the mainstream, meaning non-IT media. It really has captured the imaginations.
So what do we actually know?
Yeah, let's get to the facts.
For sure about this.
This is just what we know so far. So right. Marks & Spencer's online shopping service won't be back with us until July. That's 90 days after discovery. Quite a lot of lost revenue there. To cope with the chaos in store, and if you've been in the UK and wherever their branches are available, I think Dubai, etc., you'll know that there are 75% more physical, real-world people assistance to cope with the in-store demand for their checkouts. The board has also admitted that the costs for all of this is going to run north of 300 million, and that's an important number. We'll come back to why that is in a second. The rumour in the insurance press is that Europe's largest insurer, Allianz, will allegedly be on the hook for 100 million of this. The lawyers are going to love, that's going to be a nice fight. And finally, share pickers in the Financial Times and elsewhere are telling everybody with shares, don't worry, it's going to be okay. And they're still rating this stock a buy. So there's a lot going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real shame, for those of us who have sort of grown up with Marks and Spencer's as a national treasure, that, in recent years, it really had declined. But it's such a shame now for the CEO and the team who had, after, frankly, many years of so-so to poor management, dug this 100-year-old plus brand out of the mire, with actually, frankly, a much-admired range of clothing to add to its food staples, which have been, great for years.
Absolutely.
And that whole brave decision to take on third-party brands was beginning to pay off. In fact, I am currently wearing one of those Marks and Sparks third-party brands.
We're not going to ask about your underwear, but yeah, I mean,
Paul. It's my shirt.
You can buy, several £100 worth of Maui Jim sunglasses at Marks and Spencer. They really figured out how to make this online thing work. Well, until recently.
Oh, I can't think who's got a softness for Maui Jim sunglasses. Can you, Paul?
I can't. No. All right. So Marks and Spencer was roaring along with a profit heading for 400 million for the year. Brilliant. Then they get a 300 million pound bill. Whoops.
Yeah. But it wasn't a lazy bit of reporting saying, this is an IT glitch.
Yeah.
Or the management said customers should not worry.
Yeah. Yeah, Chairman, this was an IT glitch. As if that's good enough these days. It was once upon a time. The management has, as you rightly said customers should not worry. Well, the reason that you could get away with calling things an IT glitch and telling customers not to worry because their data was safe is just the poor standard of reporting around this back in the day. But now we've had the post office scandal on ITV. Suddenly, we've all got a little bit more aware and realised that things like this are a little bit darker than just queues at tills. Yeah. Real customer data is out there on the dark web, and the IT teams at M&S are in the firing line, and it's hard not to feel sympathy for them.
Yeah, but that said, the techies union, inverted commas, has been in full swing. Defending the cyber and IT ops teams have been reported sleeping on floors. Sounds like 1970s British car production. And working around the clock. I mean, just look at the comments we've seen in the major newspapers. To see that those in glass houses, and it could happen to anybody, comments, on the other side of the coin, those that seek to place the blame on outsourcing IT support to India, allegedly, and a lack of management care about tech.
So whatever the case about the issue, the effects are clear, and we believe are going to become even clearer in the next set of M&S financial results, not giving out any financial advice, but just beware about buy signals from major newspapers. No amount of customer sympathy will pay for all of that overtime and the admission by M&S management and M&S leader Stuart Makin describing this as just a glitch. It will need to bring forward millions in IT spend, hence the cybersecurity vendors rubbing their hands with glee, which sort of begs the question, why only do that after the event? After an event that wiped off £750 million in shareholder value.
Yeah, so let's go back to the original question we posed in this section, which is, what about cyber and new categories?
Yeah, stating the obvious, the existing cyber systems didn't stop the disaster, right? So do retailers simply replace what they have?
Luckily for their existing tech suppliers, others were hit too.
Right,
so the answer for lots of aspiring cybersec vendors are rubbing their hands with glee. It's sort of ironic because many had largely given up on retail as a sector, citing just how tight retailers were with their IT budgets.
You're so right. So cybersec vendors avoided retail because they said these guys never spend anything.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. They might be getting their hands in their pockets. It does also point out that the cyber platform leaders and many of the leading vendors are saying, we've got a cyber platform, Cisco, Palo Alto, CrowdStrike. We're all that you need. But there are clearly still holes, and AI is making them larger by the day. Hence, opportunity.
The specifics of this case, where many are pointing to social engineering, throw up lots of new category ops.
For a start, it's going to increase interest in those solutions who can stop and can prevent users from being the weakest link in cyber defense, and there are lots of those around.
Yeah.
We know this space quite well, Jonathan.
We do indeed, and this is a new set of solutions which encompasses old school security awareness from multi-billion players like no before, and the latest stack from startups like, we have to say, this is a client, Recyber, whose behavior detection and response solution.
Sounds useful.
Yeah, it is, but it does define a new way to ensure employees and contractors all remain on the same page with cybersecurity.
Yeah, and what's nice about BDR and some of these new categories that we think are going to emerge after this shock is there's clearly a real need and a real solution. Forget about product market fit. It's right in front of your eyes. There really could not be a clearer example of a real and pressing business need.
So perhaps some good can come out of this.
Wouldn't that be good?
After all?
Yeah, some good can come out of this.
Yeah.
So what have we learned here? Well, we learned from Marks & Spencer's supply chains, especially global ones, which extend all over the world and include many different vendors, are fragile.
Yeah, and cybersecurity at last is mainstream news.
Hurrah! It's not something weird. We need to pay attention.
Yeah, and for the insurance company,
yes, they love it.
They love it because guess what? Cyber insurance is now a mainstream proposition.
Yeah, so I should imagine the premiums next year for Marks and Spencer will be somewhat higher, and for everybody else who's anything like that.
So money's going to be spent, and of course retailers are going to have to stop penny pinching.
Opportunity knocks. Yeah, retailers are going to have to give up this penny pinching reputation, which probably means that our underpants are going to go up in price. But
and shirts, Paul, and shirts.
And from a category point of view, as with anything that is truly needed, that it's not that the pie is being redistributed. The pie is growing. There's going to be lots of new categories. And just to nakedly advertise here, we actually know quite a bit about cybersecurity.
Builder.ai, is it Dotcom time again? From what we've seen in recent weeks, Builder.ai huffed and puffed and blew itself out. It's worthwhile going back to some first principles, and that of the legendary investor Warren Buffett, who pointed out it's only when the tide goes out you see who's swimming without trunks. Now, tech companies, as they move from hot to not more regularly these days, and it's not all one-way traffic. When newer tech firms do go into reverse, the hubris of their funders and founders is laid bare. So, is it true, as Europeans, we see fewer category-dominating tech firms?
It is.
It is. But in the current uncertainty in the startup scenes, we also see a lot less chaos.
We do.
Paul, what about the wrecking ball, which toppled British Eye Hopeful?
Well, Builder.ai, or Builder.
Let's be familiar. Let's just call it
Builder. Bob the Builder is a powerful reminder that tech attracts many, let's call them colourful characters, who when they make big promises, and you mix that with investor naivety and a lot of tech exuberance, which we do support, things can go bad quite quickly.
So the facts of this is that Microsoft-backed Builder, we agreed to call it Builder, didn't we? Builder, announced it was seeking to enter insolvency this month, which is generally pretty bad news, unless you're an insolvency practitioner, when it's very, very good news. The company once valued, and we say inverted commas because we have seen some pretty rich valuations to companies that clearly don't actually deserve it in recent years, was $1 billion. It was a unicorn. And now it's allegedly for sale by its founder for $35 million, a mere $35 million, but he's still claiming that it's actually valued at $1.8 billion. Something does not add up.
It doesn't. Right. So is this a case of irrational exuberance, AI hype, or something more sinister? Either way, it's not a good look for European tech. Was this the wrong category choice? Was it failed execution? Or was it something else?
Right. Well, they do say that one of the most positive features of the US entrepreneur system is its tolerance for failure. But there is a fine line, a really fine line between build it and they will come, Zuckerberg's move fast and break things, and fake it till you make it. That's all a bit Wild West to us Europeans.
Yeah. And luckily, we don't fake it till we make it as much, although we are accused of not doing that in Europe. But think about the very US-centric behavior of Theranos and FTX, for instance. These were pioneers in the too good to believe cancer diagnosing blood tests and get-rich crypto. Those founders ended up in US prisons for overreaching and other bad behaviors, including in both cases awful dress sense.
Right, there's a little update on that.
Oh yeah, Elizabeth, you'll be glad to know Elizabeth Holmes has had her sentence reduced from 11 years to 9 for good behaviour. Some would doubt that. And Sam Bankman-Fried has also had his 25-year sentence reduced for good behaviour by 4 years. Hurrah. Bless them both. and the world can look forward to benefiting from more entrepreneurialism in around 2032 or 2044, respectively.
Right. Now, come on. Unlike others, we are certainly not alleging any malfeasance or illegality at Builder. Although we did note some sharp practices when its sales team reached out with a partnership agreement proclaiming, I love this, I'm going to try not to laugh, Technology is the ultimate equilibrium creator, and and we are the next gen app development platform for every company and idea on the planet.
So thanks for emailing that over. Overclaiming much? Yeah, certainly. The public rumors of alleged impropriety by some of the executives is concerning. But isn't Steve Jobs like reality distortion just par for the course when we're building new markets here? Shouldn't we just get with the program?
Is it certainly true in the UK always to have to build up our heroes and even our sports teams just to knock them down? A look at poor old Manchester United. Or is this a case of no smoke without fire?
To be fair, the Builder.ai or Builder idea was not a bad one. A way for SMEs to outsource their digital goods and services selling globally without retaining a large in-house team of web builders. So was the issue here just timing by Builder? Or was it that those people it was selling to were already aware and probably using Shopify and other tools? Time will tell.
Yeah, I mean, but the reality is Builder is not the only former high-flying European tech firm in reverse recently.
Yeah.
Which brings us to another European hopeful, seemingly in decline, but hopefully not terminal.
Well, the hopeful of all hopefuls, actually, described in the go-go area of 2021. Remember that? Yeah. As Europe's largest unicorn by no less than Sifted, with a valuation, an alleged valuation, of 15 billion. More recently, that's come down to below 10 billion. So,
are you going to name this company?
Checkout.com, of course. So, full disclosure, we did a little bit of work with this team in its early days. As far as we are aware, there are no underlying issues whatsoever, and we would make that very clear. But so why are the journalistic knives out now for Checkout, for Builder, and all that sort of stuff? Is this some sort of anti-success gene here in Europe, or was the hype too much to start with?
Yeah, I mean, the founder, Guillaume Pouzaz, is very much not in prison.
He's not
here.
in prison.
Yeah, rather, he's legging it to the tax haven of Monaco, yeah?
Yeah.
Nice one, Rachel
Thanks,
Reeves.
Rachel Reeves. Yeah, brilliant. So raising the taxes of high net wealth individuals. You can say what you want, but this business is clearly a successful European tech business. Still not profitable after nearly a decade, okay. But it's worthy, we think, of celebration, not denigration.
Yeah, but meanwhile, the naysayers are doing down Europe again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see that post?
That LinkedIn post, which clearly went viral into our inboxes, pointed out that Apple was worth more than Germany and that the tech stack is consolidating and Europe is outside its gravitational pull. Furthermore, Europe didn't just miss the last tech revolution, it's sleepwalking through the next one too.
Sorry, dudes. No. What a load of pants.
Not even Marks and Spencer pants, those ones.
Those who are in late stage empires, and you know who I'm talking about, should take note.
Yeah.
The European founder guests on this pod not only reject the notion that Europe's missed the boat, we revel in the ignorance that it displays.
Yeah, the risk then is that others see negativity, though,
right.
and pile on. You know, that way Europe may not even come second. We need to be very careful in these uncertain times.
Yeah, and without wishing to be negative to our American cousins, boastful commentators over there, including some on major tech pods, and you know who we're talking about, may want to remember it's they who may come second to their Eastern rivals.
Yes, a little bit of humility. We've been through the great decline of empire. Have a look at our history. Other people who might be at the zenith of their power.
Like that.
So finally, perhaps, given the recent, hopefully temporary disruption to tech startup funding, perhaps we should look at the pent-up success of slightly late-stage tech firms.
Exactly. There is some light at the end of the tunnel here. So while many of the puffed-up zombie businesses of tech, those who raised money in 2021, when money was free, they are quietly shuttering. Builder, maybe not so quietly. They're merging with rivals, and they're doing stealth layoffs, looking at you, Sophos and others.
It's a classic cycle of consolidation. Nothing new in that.
No.
So many of the previous generation, tech's older guard, who are, highly proven software assets, with their steady and reliable cash flows.
Oh, lovely.
They'll last the course, and occasionally swooping flush PE owners are doing well. All that PE dry powder has to go somewhere. So, luckily, I think your firm, Paul, represents some of the latter.
And so we know for a fact that tech is a sector that is way too big to fail, despite the high-profile Dotcom bursts and builders of this world, etc. So guys, take heart, seek out those future categories. And if you are in a PE-funded firm, shepherd it, because there's still a lot of dry powder there.
And I think it's worth going back to another old bloke, recently retired, fate yet to meet us, but back to Warren Buffett, who also said, be nervous when others are greedy, and greedy when others are nervous. We believe the founders and funders of Europe are made of sterner stuff.
Next up, Intel. The surgery is underway, but will a dissection begin? So back in episode 39, we looked at the state of Intel, one of the world's largest chip makers, post the departure of ex-VMware CEO and ex-Intel CEO Pat Gelsinger, and the rapidly evolving competitive environment from the out-and-out semiconductor category leader. We concluded, looking at our semiconductor crystal balls, that radical surgery beckoned, and possibly a breakup of the corporation loomed if it was going to survive. What's the update?
Well, in the run-up to its latest results, Bloomberg reported, citing an anonymous source, that Intel would share plans to cut more than 20% of its workforce.
Yeah.
That's fine. But I think one of the most interesting things to look at in the current environment is Intel's stock performance, which really is not great at all. And if you had a mirror to the performance of the S&P 500 index, Intel is it.
Yeah. One's going up, the other's going down.
Intel's going down. It's looking like a great big crocodile gape at the moment.
Absolutely.
And the important thing here is that the rumoured upcoming layoffs are part of the new CEO, who's called Lip-Bu Tan, who is a turnaround veteran from Cadence Design Systems, who was once a client of mine in the old days.
Good company.
His broader plan is to build an engineering-first culture at the company and restructure its balance sheet in the light of the growing competition from NVIDIA and particularly Taiwan's TSMC. Now, according to this report, Intel, which underwent major layoffs in 2024, getting rid of 15% of its workforce, had roughly 109,000 employees.
That's a big number these days.
Year. They're a big company.
Yeah.
So brace, if we do our simple maths, for a possible new cohort of over 20,000 people getting their pink slips.
And unfortunately, as Microsoft just did a bunch of layoffs, they are going to be competing with some pretty serious, experienced, old school, engineering heavy tech talent in the market.
Indeed. And when Intel delivered its earnings back on the 24th of April, its revenue forecast was below Wall Street estimates amid trade war concerns, thank Donald, and flat growth. I mean, people talk about flat growth, it's ridiculous, but nothing much happening from a year earlier. It did also reveal that tariff fears had led to chip stockpiling, which of course impacted Intel's second quarter outlook.
Positively, one would imagine.
Yeah, but no mention of layoffs in the announcement. But it confirmed its plan to cut costs, right? Reducing operating expenses and capital expenditure targets. Plans to reduce its operating expenses were $500 million this year, another $1 billion next year. Unsurprisingly, shares were down sharply in after-hours trading, and pretty much have continued on that track.
Well, one would speculate if the market thought that was going to save them, share price would go up.
Yeah, but you've got to look at a more strategic view of this, really. And one result of looking to reduce capital expenditure, said Tan, Intel is examining its factory footprint, having already said back in February it was going to push back the $28 billion factory project in Ohio until 2030. Now, that must have been a Trump-pleasing move, mustn't it?
Well, I think that was a bait and switch with good old Dodry Biden. It's like, some good news for him to announce, and then, oops, we moved it.
We've moved it.
A little history might help to frame why it is that we care so much about the Intel Corporation. Well, it powered several cycles of innovation based on its cutting-edge, research-based technology, originally, which came from post-war engineers. Its founder, Gordon Moore, coined Moore's Law, which is obviously named after him, which the tech industry lived by for more decades than I care to remember. And it's amazing former refugee CEO, Andy Grove, famously stated, only the paranoid survive. And Intel did, at the forefront of the digital revolution for decades.
Yeah, and from a category point of view, its partnership with Microsoft, the so-called Wintel Alliance, dominated the personal computer revolution brilliantly. It created the category of named microprocessors with 286, 386, 486, and Pentium. This reframed buyers' perceptions of why components mattered. And that was a very, very, very important campaign they ran. You do need to care about what's inside. Oh, Intel inside, and so on.
Classic category framing.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. And that ensured its value relative to all others in the fast commoditizing PC market at the time stayed uppermost. But tech, as in life, leadership can be fleeting. Missed a couple of key moves, brings us back to today.
Over to you then, Jono. Where are we today?
Right. So this is all about transformation. Clearly, there's obvious benefits of all the cost reductions. But what's really going on at Intel? Cost cuttings and layoffs may be the headline, but it's transformation that's the actual story here. So listening to the results and looking around the web, some things are clearly apparent. The new CEO seems to be driving the company back to this engineering first culture that we talked about. And those of us who have worked with Intel decades ago know that engineering first was where its head was definitely at. What that means for TAM is removing the meetings heavy, bloated management structures that typify late-stage US corporations and have done in every aspect of technology. Basically, TAN wants to empower technical talent and eliminate bureaucracy. But it's not just the middle managers who are going to get it in the neck. A big leadership shakeup is underway, also aimed at actually making the elephant dance, to use Rosabeth Moss-Cantor's phrase. The key chip units are going to report directly to the CEO, with Sachin Katti taking over as Chief Technology and AI Officer. Interesting. Note the explicit recognition of AI. It's now very important to Intel, as it should be. And it looks like specialization is the future. And that makes us more convinced that breakups or spin-offs could be the route that makes Intel Corporation leaner, faster, and crucially, more innovative.
Go on, Intel.
Right. So CEO Tan is already selling 51% of Altera, acquired by Intel in 2015, to private equity Silver Lake. But insiders say the company is beset. This is Altera. The same management issues as the current Intel. So we'll see whether Silver Lake is axe-friendly too, and if they intend to create
you know the answer to that.
a return from their investment. Yes, I'm sure I can see those axes and their very, very sharp edges twinkling in the distance. So Tan also revealed on that earnings call that he has actually met with TSMC CEO C.C. Wei and former CEO Morris Chang. So according to Reuters, the purpose, he said, was to find areas of possible collaboration and create a win-win situation.
And you, however, are going down the shop to buy yourself a hat.
Yes, I am.
Which is a British way of saying there may be a wedding imminent.
There may be, or I might need to eat it, given the words I've just said. Intel, of course, has been a long-term partner with TSMC, but interestingly, and this is, I think, very interestingly, TSMC held its annual US Technology Day in Santa Clara in California quite recently.
Right in the middle there.
Which was attended by both Tan and Wei. Now, call me imaginative here, but the words smoke and fire come to mind here. And perhaps Tan is going to make some really major changes. The problem always is when you start a radical reinvention that the talent you don't want to leave also heads to the door. Yeah, that's something I had direct experience of in the mid 1990s when IBM got that spectacularly wrong. Its best people were leaving with massive payouts on Friday and starting new gigs on Monday with very fat wallets. But that was that was the beginning of IBM's own near-death moment when the former Food and Siggy's exec Lou Gerstner arrived to shake things up, and he really did, and saved the company. That's the real danger right now, particularly that the top engineers may exit. There are plenty of exciting, well-funded startups and competitors out there ready to hire, all the way from Taiwan to Saudi Arabia. And in the era of Trump tariffs and resulting crashing US economy, employment abroad may become a very attractive option.
Yeah, especially if you earn a lot of money and you don't want to pay too much tax.
Yeah, so the mood music, Paul, what do you think?
Well, industry expertise is certainly what Intel is looking to recruit. And industry expertise is a theme that we're seeing with a lot of new categories, especially we just looked recently at the cybersecurity and how cybersecurity is now spreading into IoT and IOMT at last, Internet of Medical Things. That points to embedding becoming where the market is going in a lot of these engineering heavy categories. And it makes sense that there is a focus on engineering, because if you look at an NVIDIA rig these days, it's less like a microchip and more like a supercomputer. So this seems to be the setup for a whole new wave of new startups, as you said, engineering-led, probably with a lot of experience from some of the major companies that have shaped this entire industry.
Okay, so overall, the story of Intel currently is it's very clear that this isn't just about cost cutting. It's really the beginning of a bold attempt to reinvent Intel from the ground up. Do we think Intel can make a comeback, or is it too late? As we said last time, this is hardly even the end of the beginning, but we'll continue to watch closely to see if Intel can regain its category mojo as the massive shift in the semiconductor landscape continues. If we know anything from the history of US corporate downturns, there comes a time when only the bold survive. But a turnaround of this magnitude takes time, and we have to hope Intel shareholders have got the patience to back Tan in his work. Thank you for listening. If you want to learn more about category design, head to becategorical.com. If you need help designing and dominating your category, then get in touch. Contact details are in the show notes.